Please welcome on stage our next moderator, Kristina Frolova Lasenko.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. What a day, right? From global investment landscape, global technologies, emerging technologies, and the panel which I will be running, the panel which we're going to be wrapping a day with, is actually we're going to talk about Saudi and Saudi macros. I will ask the team to change the slide when they have a chance, but for now I'd like to invite to this stage a few people which were disrupting the Saudi and building and driving impact here, and we would like to learn from them what's working, what's not, and how we can make it work even better. So I would like to welcome on the stage Abdulrahman Almalik, who is a co-founder and CDO at Vendre. Yes, we can clap all together. Thank you. Yes, please. Wherever you want. Thank you. Zaghnin, who is the general partner for Startup Wise Guys. Emon Shakoor, CEO and founder of Blossom Accelerator. Welcome. Yes. Faisal Baig, Chief Investment Officer at ASFAR. Omar, Shah, co-founder and CEO of Colabs. And Ayub, Chief Portfolio Officer of Vision Invest. And we're waiting for Aya, if she's in the room. Yes, welcome. All right. How is everyone? You good, guys? Yeah?
Great.
A lot of great discussions today, right? So, I'm personally super excited for this conversation because there is so much fuzz around Saudi, right? So everyone is here because everyone sees the potential, right? But let's talk about what it actually means. And I really love seeing all of you guys here because you all have very different backgrounds, very different stories, very different perspectives. So I've prepared for you a panel where you have accelerators and private equity and VCs and the communities all together. And that's why we'll be able to unpack different topics, like from different perspectives, right? Before we go into introductions, I kind of want to set the tone for the discussion, all right? So we're going to focus on 4 things. And I want to make this as a mastermind session for us. So kind of a developing together playbook for everyone in the room. So the first thing which I will be asking you about is, who are you? So what's your story? Because I think it's very important for people, especially traveling here, to see who are those people building here and what's their stories. The 2 is that what? So what are you focusing on for the next year? What are you going to put your next dollar or next real to? What are the trends? 3 is why everyone is interested to build here. And the last one will be how. So how we do it right. Because you definitely saw so many businesses expanding here. Not everyone were successful. We would like to learn, what we should do and what we shouldn't. Okay, so let's start. If everyone is happy with agenda, we will start with introductions. So my name is Kristina, and I'm a founder and president of Activation Group. We activate capital, technology, and talent all across tech and gaming, actually. So I'm very happy to be with you today. I would like to start with introductions, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kristina. And first of all, good afternoon and assalamu alaikum, everyone. For those of you who are traveling from overseas or Dubai or Pakistan, welcome. A special welcome to those who are here for the first time. Riyadh is a very special city at this moment in time, and there's a lot happening here. Thank you for putting me on this panel, especially because I've met some good old friends. So thank you for that. And last night when I was going around in the event and I met with some really interesting people from Pakistan. One is running a growth equity fund. One is running a Gen AI company with $20+ million in ARR based between San Francisco and Pakistan. One has carved a niche in classical music. They want to be the Spotify of classical music. And one is doing a digital twin based in Saudi and doing a lot of business with some major government projects. So it's an honor and privilege, and very happy to see that the Pakistani community is doing some really interesting stuff. Now, introduction on myself, I had investments for a company called ASFAR, which is owned by the Public Investment Fund. And for those of you who are just getting to know the country, Saudi Arabia has PIF as a vehicle, which is a very major driver in the global economy. And PIF has established a lot of verticals with a very large global domestic agenda. And PIF has mandated ASFAR to focus on the travel and tourism space. And our focus is on making equity investments in real estate, greenfield in projects, as well as private equity investments across the globe, as long as that money can be used to uplift the state of the Saudi tourism sector. And I'll just stop here.
We'll definitely dive into this
Sure.
more, because I'm pretty sure everyone would be very interested to understand how PIF is actually, and especially with ASFAR, how you're shaping the sector. But let's do the round of introductions first. Thank you.
Sure. So again, thank you very much for the panel, and thank you for the team at Pack Launch for inviting me to join this esteemed panel. Also, very good to have a good friend of mine to my left. My name is Abdulrahman Almalik. I am co-founder and CDO at Venry. Venry is a wealth creation platform that gives Henrys, high earners not rich yet, access to private market investment opportunities that are typically reserved for institutional investors and family offices. We cover 4 main pillars in private markets, those being real estate, private equity, private credit, and venture capital. Typically for these type of opportunities, the minimum tickets are in the millions of dollars. A lot of you guys are from VCs, so you know that for an LP to participate as an investor, typically you'll invite them at no less than $1 million, unless they're friends and family maybe. What we do is we'll syndicate the allocation by taking $3, $5, $10 million and then distributing it to smaller ticket investors. Focusing on Henrys is a segment that alleviates us from the pain of dealing with mass markets. So we look at mass affluent, where the minimum tickets for the investment opportunities are dropped from the millions to $10,000. I'll stop here and looking forward to the rest of the discussion.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to learn, you doing how you're democratizing basically the entry to the private sector here, and why it's so important to this market specifically. We're going to tap into that. Emon?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Pack Launch. Thank you to everyone here listening. It's a pleasure to be amongst such esteemed panelists. My name is Emon Shakoor. I'm a Saudi founder and venture capitalist. Nearly 10 years ago, when Vision 2030 was first announced in 2016, I had an idea of starting a startup launch pad, an accelerator, an incubator, an ecosystem builder. And for the last 9.5 years, I've been doing just that. I'm the founder and CEO of Blossom Accelerator. And what we do twofolds in the company. One, we work with governments around the world, specifically here in Saudi with different ministries, Ministry of Communication, Information Technology, Ministry of Industry, a number of large conglomerates, PIF-listed, Saudi-listed companies, on Tadawul, PIF companies. We run innovation for them. So we run different accelerator programs, venture builders, incubators, operating co-working spaces. And this is particularly interesting for entrepreneurs because with every specific ministry that we're partnering with Ministry of Industry, we'll focus on hardware technologies. With NEOM, we'll focus on green hydrogen and e-fuels. With Dir'iyya, we're focusing on arts, heritage, culture, tourism, and it allows that capacity for an entrepreneur not only to join an incredible program led by national leaders and conglomerates within Saudi, but also help startups with that immediate go-to market, which is such a pain point for startups, because you start a company and then you're like, okay, where do I get my clients from? And via these existing programs we have, startups are able to pilot test, they're able to establish JVs, and also receive investment from a number of different local conglomerates. That's one end of the business on all things innovation, operating programs, initiatives. Another of what we do is we draw foreign direct investment from different countries around the world to Saudi, and we create bilateral relationships. In a nutshell, we have different partnerships with sovereign wealth funds and venture capitalists around the world, and we attract top-tier global startups to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Within Pakistan, we have an eminent partnership with Eye to Eye, in the US with Sequoia Capital, in the UAE with Hub 71, with Dubai Future District Fund, and many others. And with this model, we're able to attract global startups and the best talent and bring them to Saudi. Within Saudi, what we do for them and with them is three things. The legal setup. We're a licensed entity by Saudi's Ministry of Investment. So we help with the investment license, the entire company setup, so that said company can actually operate in Saudi and have full autonomy and 100% foreign ownership. And then we help that said startup with fundraising, closing different KPIs, whether that be by family offices, corporate venture capital arms, VCs, angels, and also helping that company go to market successfully and gain their first clients within Kingdom. So part of my job is really to travel the world and tell everyone that if they missed out on Silicon Valley, if they missed out on China, if they missed out on the days where it was a boom in the UAE, today is not the day to miss out on Saudi, and in particular, Riyadh.
Thank you. Emon, it's actually very interesting to see how 10 years ago you had a vision to build this, because accelerators, it's, I mean, at that kind of a capacity of doing cross, sectors, accelerators and programs and building the bridges, it's kind of felt like it's a more new thing. But doing this 10 years ago, I can imagine the challenges you have to face, because you were a startup 10 years ago as well, right? But we'll tap into that. Omar, tell us about Colabs and your expansion as well here.
I'll be short and quick. I'm an investor turned founder, co-founder and CEO of Colabs. We started off doing real estate, flexible workspaces, and eventually became into a platform. Today we're the largest platform in Pakistan, manage over about 500,000 square feet. We don't just provide workspaces, but we also run programs for entrepreneurship, for art, for music, and I recently moved to Saudi. The panel before was basically our cap table. We're backed by the leading VCs, including Shakoor, Arte, Indus, Gobi, and we have just launching in Saudi in January. If anyone wants space, they want to help setting up a company, reach out to me, anyone from the team. Happy to work with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Ali?
Thank you. So we are a privately held. We're a privately held Saudi developer, owner-operator of infrastructure assets. So unlike everyone else here, we're maybe...
I think we need to change the mic, right? Do we need to...
Closer. Closer? Is that better now?
Yes, thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Omar, for turning it on. So that shows the level of my intellect with technology. We are a privately held Saudi developer of infrastructure assets. So we've set up a company, Aqua Power, back about 13 years ago, which is the highest private market capitalization in terms on the Tadawul. We've taken that learning and really applied it across the infrastructure stack. So much like everyone here is talking about the AI stack, we've focused on the infrastructure stack. We have power, water desalination, district cooling, hydrogen, data centers, everything from an infra perspective of building out the ecosystem in Saudi Arabia and now expanding into Central Asia and Africa.
Thank you.
So FYI, Aqua Power is worth over 200 billion Saudi riyals. It's the largest one in the market. So just if Ali missed that out.
Thank you. Yes. Aya.
Thank you so much. My name is Aya. I'm the managing director of Startup Wise Guys. It's a European accelerator company. But when we came to Saudi, we kind of rebranded. Our name now is Neo City because we are a venture capital fund that's focused solely on prop tech, construction tech, and smart cities. We don't really do any other sector. So we are focused on the application of AI in the real estate sector and infrastructure sector. We are sponsored by the Ministry of Telecommunication, by the Real Estate General Authority, by the Mahidab Group as well, and the Fawzan Group, and also Retail and some other developers. What we do is simple, is that we bring the startup from abroad, we invest in them, we sandbox them for like a month or two, fully paid by us, and then we only hold the developer contractor accountable that if the KPIs are reached, they have to commercialize them. If not, we de-risk all the investment. And if the KPIs are reached, we invest up to $1 million per company. So far, we already invested in 10. We brought them from all around the world, from Singapore to the US, and we're looking forward to the next step. And yeah, thank you so much.
Amazing traction, amazing, thank you. Just before we start with the questions, I actually wanted to see how many people in the room actually are based here. Just to see how many of us are. One, yes, okay, thank you. And who actually flew over here because excited about this market and for this conference?
Woohoo!
Oh, wow, okay, amazing. So, yeah, I think the questions we're gonna unpack and unlock today would be quite important because it's actually a lot of frustration when you enter in the new market, right? There is a lot of, you need the partnerships, you need to understand how you do things. So talking about the Saudi, as we're talking about the Saudi macros, and it's the 2026 is very close. So what is your focus, guys, for the next year? So for your investments, for your programs, where are you putting your next real to? So what are you betting on? We would like to know. Would you like to start?
Sure. Let me start. So as I mentioned, our focus is everything travel and tourism, and we are an equity investor, right? So let me just give a couple of data points. Number one, given that the government is a very key part of the economic growth in the country, it's critical that we or the sector that we focused on should be in the top of their priority list. And some of you who follow the recent developments, a couple of weeks back there was a global conference held in Riyadh, which is a very prominent conference, the FII. And among the top 5 sectors that they listed, travel and tourism is among those top 5 sectors. So that's a very critical validation for us. Number 2, and that's a data point I try to share with everyone I speak to. Back when the Vision 2030 was announced, the government, put a target of 100 million travelers to Saudi by 2030. Okay, these include pilgrims and international tourists and domestic travelers. They achieved 109 by 2023. So they exceeded the targets well ahead of time. The number in 2024 were 116 million, and the current target for 2030 is 150 million. But I know that target is going to increase. So there's a very clear evidence of momentum and growth. So when I look at the sector, as an equity investor, and by the way, travel and tourism for us is not just entertainment and tour operators, right? So it looks at the entire journey of a traveler. And we look at everything from booking the travel, to transport, to accommodations, to food and beverage. Of course, there is entertainment. There are hotel operators, there are the training academies, and then we look at the supply chain into these sectors. When you look at it and you look at some of the driving factors that I mentioned, we think there's a very clear way to generate attractive equity returns. So as an example, we are actively in discussions with a leading transport company in Saudi where we're looking to acquire a minority stake and injecting growth capital. We are speaking with a couple of international entertainment and activities-based companies. We are speaking with a European tour operator, one of the largest ones. And the objective is that in 2026, we lay the groundwork for filling some of the key gaps leading up to 2030, where the country has some very high targets for tourism.
Got it, thank you. Do we have any startups in the tourism sector? Amazing.
Let me just add that, look, I know a lot of companies here are probably tech-focused.
Yeah.
So think about the potential implication of all of the sectors that I mentioned. So think about prop tech, think about travel tech, think about AI-based concierge services. Think about simple things like using AI to make your procurement more effective. So there is a massive potential of using technology across all the target sectors.
Right, thank you. Talking about digital disruption in general, so right now the digital economy in Saudi specifically stands for $132 billion industry, right? And which is about, at that time, it's 15% of the kingdom's GDP, right? So with Abdulrahman, with you guys, the way you're disrupting, you bringing the technology component to the private equity, to the venture capital, right? Tell us more, what is the kind of a core pillars for you for the next year? What are you going to focus more on?
Look, I think what we focus on depends a lot on the problem that we're solving. So good founders look for a problem, or they identify a problem and they find a good solution that works for the masses. That's something that we're very adamant on doing, whether it's for this year, the remainder of this year or next year. Today, when you look at private market investment opportunities, vis-a-vis retail investment, what's offered to retail investors and what's available for public investment, so equities, basically stock market, bonds, etc. These are very accessible, and during this panel we can open up a portfolio, invest in a stock, and exit by the time the panel is done. So very liquid markets and very accessible. What we're looking to solve is the lack of this accessibility. By providing institutional grade investment opportunities, whether it's on the real estate side or on the venture capital side, or even in the public private equity side, or venture debt and private debt. So that's really the core of the problem that we're looking to solve, bringing access at much lower minimum tickets, whether it's for investment opportunities in the kingdom or global opportunities, is the core of our function. We established originally the company in London, and with from day zero focus to establish in Saudi and grow the company as much as we can to cover the MENA region. And with that, we've onboarded clients from 17 different countries, and we've only been operating for a year now. So 17 countries means that when we launch an opportunity in Greece, we have 16 other nations aside from Greece, because it's one of those countries, with people attracting FDI to Greece. When we launch an opportunity in Saudi, we are doing the same, and people have a lot of pent-up demand to invest in institutional grade products. Actually, I worked at ASFAR up until Faisal joined, and I did that for around 3 years, and the story of Venry came from the pain point of not getting access to these deals that we have very strong conviction on. We're unable to get a carry because it's owned, because of the governance complexities alongside these opportunities. And that really brought up the whole story, or the idea of Venry. How can we get access to institutional grade products? And I'm sure there are many more people than myself, and it turns out there's over 1 million actually in the region, only looking at Saudi and the UAE. So we have a lot of work to do for next year.
It's like a perfect example of problem first. You saw the problem, and then you were brave enough to go and kind of to solve it, even though there is a lot of regulation, I believe, around it, right? So which you had to face in order to be able to roll out the product to so many different countries, right, and different sectors. Thank you. What do you think? What's the next? What are you guys focusing on? So you're doing all across different sectors, right? Different programs, and you focus on both local talent and global talent, and kind of bonding them together, right? So how can you even choose what's going to be a focus for next year? It's like everything needs to work, right?
Well, that's what makes the work so exciting, right? Yeah. I think at the core of it, year after year, for me, it was just so exciting when Saudi first launched tourist visas. I grew up my whole life in Saudi. I'm Saudiya. I grew up in Jeddah. I moved to Riyadh 3 years ago. So for me, from my lens, especially not only as a Saudi citizen, but as a Saudi woman, to see the world in so many capacities becoming substantially smaller because everyone is coming to Saudi is the most exhilarating and exciting feeling in the world. So my number one priority is to make doing business in Saudi seamless and easy. And fortunately for us, we have many partners like Saudi's Ministry of Investment that we partner up to make that very also attainable. One of my favorite parts of my job is traveling. I'm in DC tomorrow for a week, I'm back, and then I'm in Paris for 4 days, but I love traveling because I get to talk to people all the time about Saudi Arabia from the perspective of a relatively younger Saudi woman myself that's built a company from the ground up and have been doing so for the last 10 years. And so what I tell people all the time is, and many of you who are here in Saudi, so happy to have you here, but part of my job is to tell people all the time, you know, Saudi today, we're one of the fastest growing G20 economies on earth, highest disposable income, highest purchasing power than any other GCC country, particularly interesting for direct-to-consumer startups. We have the most active IPO market in the MENA region. Really important not only for startups looking for liquidation events, but also for investors. We have Numu, which specializes for SMEs. Tadawul is doing so much to help push more SMEs to list on that capacity as well. And then there's just been so many linear breakthroughs. I don't know if many of you know this, but Saudi is the fastest growing segment of female entrepreneurs than in any other nation around the world. When I travel, people are like, "You're Saudi? Really?" And we didn't know. 49% of all entrepreneurs in Saudi, nearly half at 49% are women. And the most thing that I want to focus on is really further telling the story of Saudi. For so long, we weren't able to tell the story ourselves, and now that we have the microphone, literally and theoretically, my job is really to amplify that. And so specifically when we work with startups, across multiple logistics, fintech, biotech, prop tech, you name it, our job is not only to give the license. The license I call is step -1, which is a very important step, but it's step -1 because when you come to Saudi and when you come to Riyadh, you still need to find your footing. I was speaking to a gentleman in the back who came to me and talked to me about JV, joint venture. And I said all day long, but the most exciting thing about what I do is giving people that autonomy, giving people 100% foreign ownership, meaning gone are the days, it's optional, gone are the days where you had to have a Saudi national as a partner to set up. Now you don't need that, and it's incredibly affordable with Saudi's Ministry of Investment as well. And so beyond actually that setup and coming up, and people have a lot of questions, do I need an office from day one? No, you don't. Do I need to hire a Saudi from day one? No, you don't. You need to hire a Saudi by the end of year one, once you set up. But the most exciting part of it thereafter is helping entrepreneurs secure investment and helping entrepreneurs acquire clientele. And so what we do as well is we help these startups actually be a vendor on so many of the different PIF companies, right? We partner with PIF's Public-Private Investment Forum so they can actually have access. One of our greatest success stories has been a company called Graphient. It's a network as a service company. It's a Sequoia-backed company that we soft-landed from the Bay Area to Saudi. Not only are they soft-landed, but we also worked with them to help them raise $19 million. So these are some of the success stories that I've had the greatest privilege in 2025 to be part of. And for me, what's most exciting is how many more stories can we co-create together? And not just tell people about Saudi, but hopefully have them actually experience it and live it.
Yeah, that's very interesting that what you're saying is like you're highlighting this almost like 360 support which any company requires to relocate here, right? But then at the end of the day, we'll make decisions that's, you know, human to human. It's like, will I, or my team as a human beings, would they actually be able to relocate? Would they enjoy it? So where community component is very important, the trust, the people on the ground they can trust to. So talking about the community component, because with the Colabs, Omar, I know that even like the core business is co-working, right? But you do a lot in terms of like building the community together. You do the programs. So you're diversifying basically your own activity, because I believe this is a reflection to what you see in terms of what is actually needed. So is there any exciting new things coming up next year for you, which you are focusing here as well in in Saudi specifically?
Yeah, I think for us, the core has been understanding the Saudi market. I spent the last 9 months over here, and I say this to everyone: if you want to do business in Saudi, you have to spend time here. There's no other. I mean, don't come for a conference, don't come for 2 days. Come and spend time here, figure out what we're doing. So Saudi, we actually, as she said as well. I mean, you can enter individually. I mean, fully owned Singapore company entering Saudi, but we actually have entered Saudi with a very exciting partner. So we're working here with the Rashid Group, which are our local partners here. And I think the goal and the advantage of having strong local partners is that they really help open a lot of doors. In terms of what we're doing today for the next 1 year and how we're building communities, I think the goal is, okay, fine, build, I mean, as earlier said, build a business that is profitable, does well, but at the same time, there are lots of nuances for expats, foreigners coming in that don't know how to navigate the market. We raised, I think $8 million in capital last few years, but the Saudi market is very different in the sense that you can have as much capital, but if you don't know how to navigate the market, you won't get it right. I think for us, the core is in the next 12 months, we want to open multiple locations in the market here, not just act as a flexible workspace provider, but actually help support people entering the market, navigating, connecting them to the right people. And the way we help build the ecosystem in Pakistan when we entered 2019 was that we worked with the government, we helped launch Google Cloud, AWS, all local partners along with universities, but also then work with the corporates. I mean, including like EY, Deutsche Bank, larger corporates. And I think for us, our strategy in Saudi is have a lean team in Saudi, but as people said earlier, great talent in Pakistan. And from that talent, create spaces here. And I say this to everyone, Saudi is 10x revenue at 1/10 the effort. You can do the same in Pakistan, but it might take you another 20 years. In Saudi, you can achieve the same revenue growth in less than 2 years. So that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I would like us to shift a bit more for like scale-ups and the larger size businesses and the sectors for the next year. So Ali, with investment and talking to, let's say, capital holders in the room, right, to, let's say, VC and private equity, in like, what are the things we should talk now to make sure we don't miss out on next year?
I think the main thing for everyone to understand is people usually come to Saudi to raise capital. Is it?
Yeah, just
Okay,
a little
it's
bit
a little
closer.
bit, closer. Huh? So I think, and maybe I think Faisal talked about it earlier, and it was evident at FII. People originally were coming to Saudi just to raise capital. They weren't looking at Saudi as a market to provide goods and services. If you look at Saudi over the next 5 years, there's about $250 billion worth of infrastructure projects that will be privatized. That's in healthcare, in schools, in power plants, water plants. All of these are products that require services from the tech sector and from the startup sector. So the advancements you've seen in the US, in Europe, in China, haven't really percolated into the infrastructure sector in the kingdom yet. So this provides a great opportunity for companies to step in here. And so when we look at it from a vision invest perspective, we will continue to invest in infrastructure, but how do we find the right tech companies to feed our ecosystem? When I look at the spend across our ecosystem in terms of AI spend, the target is about $1 billion. right? We are a $100 billion portfolio of infrastructure operating assets. $1 billion is just 1% of that. But it is how do you improve telemedicine in the privatization of hospitals? Saudi is privatizing its medical cities, which is about 10,000 beds. There are 5,000 schools that are being privatized. How do you improve through technology the utilization at the school operations? How do you do the same thing for the power plants in terms of laying maintenance and structuring? So the use of drones, right? Saudi is a vast country. How do you use drones for high voltage cables connectivity? So there are a lot of opportunities, and people I've met with in the last 3 days who have a product that is very specific to Pakistan, but it can be very easily scaled in terms of Saudi Arabia. And it also applies from a fintech perspective. Across our ecosystem, we have about 20,000 Pakistanis employed. The products that they're utilizing are the same products that are being used in Pakistan. So the ability to sell to that market is something that a lot of people haven't really focused on yet.
It's great to hear because like in Saudi you can't really only name couple of sectors. It's like there are so many different opportunities. So and the kingdom is so open for actual doers, those who come and take actions, right? Those who actually build, who move fast, who are capable of actually building relationships and learn as well. Because what we heard a lot as well today from other panels, it's about how important to be coachable and to be humble, to be able to kind of learn first, to provide the value, right? To get the traction and then scale up potentially with having the local partnership. So talking about the traction, right? And startups coming here or being built here. So what are the things which you see what's going to be a big things next year?
So I can speak only about the sector that we're very focused on now, and the reason why we're focused on it, there's a lot of really good sectors around there, and there's opportunity everywhere, to be honest. But we chose to focus on real estate specifically and infrastructure because we do see that it's not a nice to have market, it's something that is very focal to the infrastructure of the kingdom, and it's also related to a lot of other sectors within the vision of 2030. So to come back to your question, for us, we received like more than 1,000 applications. We've been only open for about a year right now in Saudi. We have done a lot of mistakes, but we've learned from them. Before I come back to your question, let me just tell you a little bit about the mistakes that we've done that were not really good. So when we opened the application at the start, we just could application call for all prop tech and context startups around the world that are focused on this and this and this. So we received even more than 1,000. We received like 3,000 applications because it was worldwide. But then when we came back and we actually, most of prop tech are B2B, it's normal, so it's B2B, it's not B2C. But when we actually went to speak to the developers and to the contractors and to everybody, we thought that the challenges that each one is actually looking for is completely different. For example, like 1/3 of the applications were about sustainability, but it's really a big thing and it's commercialized easily in the US and Europe. But when we came here to Saudi, it was not as easy as commercializable towards the private, not the public, not the PIF entities. I'm speaking about the private developer directly. So we had to switch it, go through the challenges, and basically launch tickets. Like this challenge is what we need a solution for. Regarding what we did see a lot of really good applications of AI to infrastructure and real estate. Some of our companies are actually conducting feasibility studies that usually take 2-3 months from architecture and engineering consultants. They can conduct them via AI in only like 3-4 days. We have actually POC'd this solution with one of our developers. It's called Retail, and it actually gave really good results. We do have other like workflow automation, anything that can make the developer kind of lower its cost, go fast in the way it's doing its workflows is something that we've seen going quite well. We have also seen some good solutions in robotics for construction, but since it's robotics, it's going to take a little bit of time. But we're very particularly excited about this. Going forward, we would like to invest in 50 more companies within the next 2 years and disperse more than $50 million in capital to all of these 2 companies. And as I mentioned, we invest only like a portion of it at the start, POC, and then we go up to $1 million going forward, depending on the results of the KPIs themselves.
Right, and all of them within the same sector, right?
It's real estate in general, which includes data center, which includes some tourism, which is real estate in general and infrastructure.
Makes sense. You said how many? 15 or 50?
50.
Very nice. Okay, got it, got it. So we kind of now unpack the why Saudi, but in the same time, what's next? So it's like we managed to answer both questions, I feel like. But let's, I have a feeling that everyone is excited to hear what not to do on this market, or maybe what are mistakes you saw with your portfolios, or the companies you work with investment. So if there will be a couple of things which we can suggest for everyone who is planning to, expand here, what should they think of or consider, what not to do? Let's talk about what not to do first, and then we can maybe give some, advice on what is working, actually what we think gonna work in the next couple of years.
Sure. Look, I think a lot of audience members here are either looking to enter the market, they want to do either partnerships, they want to win contracts, or they want to raise capital, or a combination of all of that, right? And I've been in the Gulf for about 15 plus years. I've been in Saudi for 8 years, and in Riyadh specifically for 2 years. And my conclusion is that if I was in your shoes, right, if I was entering the market for the first time, now in hindsight of what I know now, I think understanding the market is critical. It's an extremely relationship-oriented market, much more so than what you might be used to in the United States, for example. I think entering the market without really mapping the stakeholders, really having a good understanding of the stakeholders as to who does what, and without having a good local partner, I think that could be a mistake. And a local partner doesn't have to be a JV partner. It could be a combination of a shareholder, a board member or board members, advisors, and even people that work in your company. So I think if you haven't done that work and you want to go and jump into a JV, or you want to enter without a JV and you commit a lot of capital, I think that would be a mistake. I wouldn't commit a lot of capital and jump the gun. You wouldn't want to go and pick the first JV partner that you find without getting a good, accurate understanding of their commercial capability and to negotiate the right type of deal. The other thing that I think a lot of people, I see that a lot from some of the new players from US, where they think they can do it remotely. So if they fly in maybe 2 or 3 times a year, they think they can. So I think what happens in that case is they feel like there's a bit of a burnout factor. They feel like they're committing a lot of time, but it's not yielding anything. But look, I think it's like I said, it's an extremely relationship-oriented market. And it's number one, as one of the panelists said, that you have to be here on the ground. And I would say that it's not just enough. You got to have a local person or partner or an advisor or shareholder to not only just advise you, but also to open doors for you actively. Now, without that, I think, unless you get extremely lucky, I think it will be tough. Yeah. So these are the mistakes, and I think the reverse will be true. I think the only thing I will advise people who are entering is get to understand the landscape really well, because in my view, there are 3 types of main stakeholders. One is the PIF and the government ecosystem, right? So there are the ministries, there's PIF, and there's the PIF ecosystem companies. PIF has about 150 plus portfolio companies. PIF can be an investor, and PIF portfolio companies can be investors or JV partners. Then you have institutional investors, likes of Jadwa, Khabir Capital, and whatnot. And then you have a very large family office stakeholder. And you have some very sophisticated shareholder family offices like Olayan and Mohayyedibs and Kingdom Holding. And then you have a very long tail of single family offices with a very variable level of sophistication and understanding and professionalization. And when you enter into a new market and you pick your partners and your investor and whatnot, you got to do this with your eyes open. And that's why having a local friend, partner, advisor is critical.
Right, because relationships takes time to build. The trust is required there, right? And you mentioned about the PIF. Maybe we should highlight as well especially to the startups, because I think it's important as well to understand when they do the due diligence to kind of consider what's the check size. Would the PIF actually invest at early stage company? Not necessarily, right? So the research which you were mentioning should be like one of the first things to consider is that if they're planning to build relationships with any of the institutional funds, or let's say with PIF, should be very much, the due diligence should be done in terms of, okay, what are they ready to invest as well in?
No, absolutely. I think it's on the check size, it's on the geographic preference, it's on the model they want to pursue. I know many fund managers who in the past few years I've come across many who travel from US and they have, they blanket the market with many meetings, but without knowing that most of the family offices they're meeting with have no desire to invest in a fund. Same thing would apply to, Pakistani startups, because there may be many family offices or, investors that you will meet who just have no allocation to South Asia. I mean, this is not a reflection on your company, this is a reflection of their model. So you got to understand that to be efficient, because bandwidth is a scarce resource. You don't want to spend your energies and time, chasing after the wrong kind of partner. And I think that's why, having that know-how to begin with, and it's not something you'll ever find on the internet, right? And this is something that's an insider will know. And if you don't take advantage of that planning, I think maybe after 2-3 years you'll find out that you feel like that you've burnt out, right? And you don't want that.
And Faisal, you mentioned that the opening doors element, right? But the opening doors can be meaningfully open only when people actually understand the business, understand the sector. So that's very important as well. Abdulrahman, question to you. So your story is quite interesting. So you being Saudi, launching business in London, and then coming back here to actually expand it here. So when we think of, okay, what not to do here, you kind of wear both hats, right? As a local founder, but yet coming with your international business to local market. What's your top 3 things, what not to do in Saudi?
Look, if I'm going to talk about the first or the top 3 things, they've already been mentioned. Make sure to bring your investment with you. Make sure to spend a lot of time in Saudi. If you're coming here to attend a few conferences and expect to grow your business just by doing so, without that face time, it's going to be very challenging. And definitely, I second the partnerships. Look for the right partners. Those are going to be the top 3 easily. But also specifically for startups, because it really differs if a large corporation is coming in or vis-a-vis a startup. And I think for smaller scale companies, make sure to outsource the headache of dealing with everything that has to do with setting up your business in Saudi. And I think that's something that Emon can bring. And there are multiple other companies, not to talk about the competitors, but there are a lot of other companies that can help you set up your company. Being Saudi, we started our company in London with a very clear focus of growing in Saudi. When we brought the company to Saudi, we actually dealt with an outsourced provider that helped us set everything with the ministry, with MISA, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Ministry of Commerce. So that just alleviated a huge headache for us, or a potential headache, and allowed us to focus on the business. So. I'll stop here for that.
That's a very good point, because in some of the markets you can actually do it yourself, and some of the very brave founders think, why would I spend extra if I can, I can Google it and I can kind of do my research and do it, but there is a lot of nuances, right? Especially without even talking about the language itself, which is very important too. With some of the government ministries, wherever you apply for anything, there is it should be in Arabic, right? So we cannot neglect that part as well.
Look, that might be one thing, the language barrier, but probably easily solved. I think another angle is for regulated businesses. So something like what we do is when you require licenses from the Capital Markets Authority or from SAMA. I think this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. And to streamline the business and again, focus on scaling your business and not waste time on something that's already been done. avoid reinventing the wheel and make sure to find the right firm that would help you set up the business, apply for the license, go through the entire process on your behalf or in tandem.
Yes, yes, thank you. Emon, I will rephrase a little bit question to you, okay? Because considering the portfolio you are working with and different startups, so if, let's say, some of the startups here would like to apply and to work with you, what are the key things they need to consider when they, prior to talking to you? What means to be ready to talk to you so then you guys actually come on board and you support them with expansion here?
Such a great question. And I don't even know where to start, but I think so many companies, whether they're large, medium-sized, they're a startup that are pre-revenue, I think my colleague said it so beautifully. People come to Saudi thinking, oh my God, an oil mine, I'm gonna make so much money, I'm gonna come to Riyadh. And most people, they come to Saudi during FII, during LEAP, they're spending a long weekend here. They're like, where's my $5 million check? Investment, client, something. And so I think what's really important for startups, scale-ups, any size organization, depending on the type of activity you want to do in Saudi, is really think about your Saudi story. Really think about why you're choosing Saudi and really study the segment that you're trying to target and why it makes most sense for you and for the service, the product that you're building to connect to Saudi and Riyadh. And is it Riyadh? Or is it Jeddah? Or is it Tabuk? Because Riyadh's amazing and a lot of it is centralized here, but there's also other cities. So I think that's one. And most companies have no idea. They really have no idea about their Saudi story. We can help build that and craft that for the company, but we have to feel authenticity. I'll tell you that much. Because you can imagine, we get probably 5,000 companies a year who are like, help us get money in Saudi. And it's like, great, we would like to, but we have to weave it out a bit, obviously. And I think success stories genuinely do come from people who genuinely love Saudi, they want to learn more. I always say there's 3 kinds of people that come to Saudi to do business, or 3 types of people when they think about Saudi in general. There's people who maybe hate Saudi, and maybe they're still coming, they want to learn, okay, can I make a quick buck? There's people who love Saudi, who are spending time on LinkedIn writing about it. And then the third demographic, which is the largest, people who just don't know enough. And it's okay if you don't know enough, but asking those questions up front of, hey, how do I navigate? Toward that end, and my colleague also mentioned it so beautifully, Saudi is an incredibly relationship-driven economy when it comes to any sort of partnerships, JV, you want to push clients, you want to fundraise. Meaning, it's so important for you to slow down and have that shisha, get that cup of coffee, say, كل عام وانت بخير, Ramadan Kareem, genuinely make that effort. And a really interesting thing that we found, having introduced so many startups to so many investors, to a number of PF companies, the banks, public listed companies, it takes an average of 7 to 10 meetings before you have anything. Meaning, meeting 1, that's like, okay, sense check. Meeting 2, okay, let me first ask around about this founder, about this person, about this businessman, businesswoman. After meeting 3, I would say you just started. If they're still accepting the 3rd meeting, you now have your foot in the door. But then you still have to map out, is there scope of work? Are you the best company? Competitors, there could be other vendors priced differently, right? There's so many other considerations. I famously always tell people when they want to do business in Saudi, and I say it open-heartedly, I say it so people when they want to come here and they do business, they really take it seriously. I say in Saudi, a yes is a maybe, and a maybe is a no. We also have, inshallah, culture, which genuinely just means we're very polite, and so it's unlikely someone is just going to say, absolutely not, your company's awful, we just don't want to work with you. They'll probably still reply here and there, maybe they'll go cold, but it's unlikely you'll hear a flat out no, like maybe you would in the US or in Silicon Valley. And it's relationship forward too. So you do need, even if you do have a company like ours, soft landing you, setting up, we then, and I always tell startups that I work with, I say, listen, let fashilna, like don't embarrass us. If I'm gonna make an intro for you, you better you better be replying to that intro in the next 10 minutes, right? Following up, looking your best. It's so important that every relationship you build on, you really take that forward. And then towards that end, I think mistake is mindset. If you think of Riyadh as a long weekend place, I come here 2 times a year, well, I came to Saudi, what's going on? Nothing will yield, because I do agree it does take time, but we've also seen so many success stories in not that much time, so much being done. 9 months, so much being done. In 6 months, so much being done. So these are some of the hope and glimmer that I also want to give people. And then also, I absolutely agree with my colleague about the setup stuff, genuinely, because it is such a multi-step process. People think if you have the investment license, you can do business. No, you can't. You still need the Saudi CR. You need to finish your articles of association. We ask you for different things. If you're expanding to apostille certain documents, if you're establishing here, another set of documents as well, all the way up until you can actually legally open a Saudi bank account and register as a vendor. And even once you're registered as a vendor, you'll still need the 7 to 10 business meetings per company on top. So that's just some pieces of advice. But also one of the biggest things that I can take away is my biggest joy is be able to help people to make that seamless, given that they have the right ingredients and commitment in place.
Right. Because when you're coming to the market, like we said, that you need to kind of give it time to learn. And one thing, and another thing is that the research which you're talking about, understanding the market, understanding what's problem you solve, because it's been a lot, because we work with a lot of founders which do sometimes, sometimes they don't understand what's actually, what's consumer behavior here, and they're kind of coming with a product for the consumers. So those things it's easy to, you can kind of identify those mistakes quickly, and they actually breaks the trust. So it's very hard later on to build the trust on top of it, right? So when people come and they say at the third trip here, they say, I know everything about the market, it feels like, okay, you haven't been here enough to become humble enough to...
And I think people in Saudi don't like know-it-alls. It used to be the case, I just want to quickly say this, it used to be the case that people used to be like, Saudi, place, quick money. What I think a lot of people need to understand is Saudi has spent so much money, King Abdullah's scholarship, to send so many of us Saudis abroad for education. We have so many executive education courses that are fully sponsored, Harvard, Cambridge, you name it. All the consultants of the world are working at all the different ministries, so we get so much access to the best talent that it's really naive for us, and it's also for the benefit that you have to go in and do your homework. Maybe 10 years ago it used to be easy to just say whatever you wanted to say and show up, but no longer.
Okay, you're right. Omar, will you share with us when are you expanding?
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I want to go back to what Faisal was talking about in terms of relationships. So when I started coming to Saudi about 9 months ago, I think the change was that when I started spending time here, I had some previous relationships, but I think the more time I spent, the more I realized that there is no way that I'm going to do business in this market if I don't have a strong partner. Like you said, like the Muhaydibs and the Bunyans, like the same way today, our partners, the Rashids from the Rashid group. The reason you build those relationships is that it makes them maybe 70% easier, because one phone call, one door opens, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it is just so much easier. And it doesn't need to be a JV. I mean, there are equity partners with us today in the market here. We invested from the Singapore entity, they invested locally. But just having them there, not just from a language perspective, but a perspective of having strong local connections, it's a trust factor. And I think it's not just for Saudi. This is the same for most emerging markets. If you go to places like Africa or, Mexico, Middle East, even South Asia, you always see foreign companies coming in, having long, strong local partners. So I think that's something that we learned. And today, I would say that it's maybe 50% easier for me to operate in the market today. And not just doors, even opening our spaces. Trying to build what we're building, there's a direct connection to that larger vision of sort of bringing companies into Saudi, making it easier to do business in this market and making life easier for me. I say this to all the founders sitting here. If you want to make 10x revenue, Saudi is the next market. And I say it to all my colleagues, because I was a founder in Pakistan. We still have a very large team in Pakistan today, but building here is maybe 5 times easier and 5x the return. So same thing. Build those relationships, spend the extra time, spend time in the market, and don't just come here for the week and go back for the weekend. Actually spend the weekends here, spend a few months here, and build those relationships. And I think that's basically.
Yeah, thank you. Ali, is there anything you would like to add to what we already mentioned? Because we kind of touched upon similar things, but from different kind of angles. So
I think there are the two angles that, and I'll pitch how people approach us. When they approach us for funding, they talk about the value add. They talk about their teams. But then those same people, and many of them in this room, have come to us to sell a service. They start off with cost, not the value add, and they don't talk about their teams.
Yeah.
Right? And so from a Saudi perspective, it's no longer just about the cheapest cost. It's about the value add and the sustainability of what you're selling. And so the ecosystem has to change. I think people are realize that from a capital raise perspective, but from a selling perspective, they're still stuck in the 80s and 90s in terms of how they sell technology to the kingdom.
yeah, value first. That should be a rule in general, right? When you're entering any market, right?
I think all has been already said. I think just one advice to everyone, just either go all in or go home. That's basically what I tell to everyone, to be honest. Either go all in or come in 1 foot here, 1 foot there will not do much. Yeah.
Go big or go home.
We have to be harsh sometimes to get things done, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with
Exactly.
you. It's actually, it's very exciting to see so much interest here for sure. So I've been working in the region for 10 years, been here for 5 years. And it's like, it's more I spend more time here, it's more I feel like more energy and, and resources is required to build here and to support here. Thank you so much for joining the panel. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and opening up the discussions, because I'm pretty sure you will have many questions now after this session. Thank you, and thank you so much for joining us for a session.
Thank you, Kristina. Thanks for helping us organize.
You did a lot, you helped a lot. I'm going to actually rush to the airport now, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yes, so you're actually going to follow my suggested. This is an 8 o'clock flight. I said, keep 15 minutes for the travel. You get to have an hour and a half.
Thank you so much.
15 minutes, maybe more.